Mountain, Island, Lightning Bolt, Spell Pierce, Switchblade, Stab Wound, Red Mage, Blue Mage.
Take us away!
Welcome to another Red Mage, Blue Mage. I am Kenny, the bluest of blue mages.
I am Amber, very deep red mage.
Super into red. And we're here to talk about a card game that you may or may not have heard of called Magic the Gathering.
I mean, after being 2002 episodes in, they should know that this is a Magic the Gathering podcast.
Well, there might be a new listener out there, one of the few people who wasn't already listening to the show.
Excuse you, new listener, go back to the beginning and be the true completionist that you need to be, because honestly, I have no respect for you if you just start at episode 2222. Go to number 1, start number 1. You won't get any of the jokes or any of the references or anything we're about to say if you don't start from the beginning.
We are very new listener friendly. Okay, so let's dive into today's topics.
Wait, I want to talk to that new listener again.
You want to take 2 on that one?
No, I'm just gonna say what I want to say after that. JK, I love you. Stay. You don't have to listen to anything. Don't ever leave. You don't have to listen to anything. If this is your first episode and it's your last episode, you know what? I love you and I appreciate you taking the time to listen for the two minutes, the first 2 minutes of the show. You know what? You tried something new. You didn't like it. That's fine. Or you tried something new and now you're going forward with it. Also, I still love you. Okay. Now I feel better now. Now we can talk about what we're going to talk about.
Okay, good. So, speaking of trying something new...
Wait, I gotta say something.
Okay, go ahead.
When I say I love you, I mean I love you in the sense of, like, as a listener. Okay, bye.
Okay. I think that was worth saying. All right, so, speaking of love, we have a love-hate relationship with the Magic story.
This is a great segue. I love how well you crafted that on the fly.
Thank you. Especially since I had to do 2 different versions because you stopped me with the first one. That's fine.
Okay, it's all a test. It's all a test, and you are passing with flying colors.
Life is a test. So I've got a little mini topic for us.
Okay.
And then the big topic for tonight, but they're both about the Magic story.
All right.
So let's start with a discussion question. Once again, it's time for an academic debate between a civilized scholar and a homicidal brute. Let's begin.
Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
So I saw a tweet that posed a Magic question about the Magic story, and I wanted to pose it to you. Now, granted, you might hear this question and be like, I don't have anything to say about that, but I bet you do. So the question comes from @CardboardCrack, which is a Magic comic. And it says, Vorthoses, can you help me out with this? Over the years, the Magic storyline has gone through a lot of highs and lows in terms of both quality and the stakes. What do you feel is the pinnacle moment or arc in Magic stories so far?
The pinnacle?
What's the highest moment in the Magic story all time?
I mean, I think the answer is obvious if you look at it at the grand scheme of things. Like the big picture.
And?
Oh, you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it has to be War of the Spark. Because when we think about Nicole Bolas, this whole storyline for we saw his card has been around for fucking ever. His old man drinking coffee card. He's been a character and he's been a villain forever. To me, it's and you have to understand, I am not a lore-heavy person. I have not read much. I do not deep dive into lore. I do not do that as much as I probably should for as many opinions as I have. So take everything I say with the hugest of grain of salt. Spark. I wanted to say spark, but I meant salt. And realize I could be completely, most likely am, speaking out of my ass. But I think it is War of the Spark, that culmination, it's like the Avengers Endgame situation. Like, all of this has been leading up to this moment. Nicole Bolas's scheming and grand plans coming to almost fruition. Oh no, traitors. Oh no, this heroes prevail. Go to the void realm, wherever. The Shadow Realm. Banished to the Shadow Realm was what happened with Nicole Bolas. And to me, that's like, from the larger Magic the Gathering picture, as a person who thinks of stories and doesn't really write them, but thinks about them a lot, that's the overarching pinnacle moment of it's the through line. Not saying that there are better and more pinnacle moments in shorter arcs. I don't know those, though. The end. I'm done talking. That was the pinnacle of my speech.
Okay. Well, funnily enough, I responded to this tweet, and I also said War of the Spark. So I agree. I do think that it's obvious in one way of looking at it. I think there are a lot of different ways that you could answer this question. So even in the question itself, in the original tweet, it says, there have been a lot of highs and lows in terms of both quality and the stakes. And I would say in other ways as well. But so they're recognizing in the question itself, there's a difference between a really great Magic story and one where that felt like it was big or that it was important.
I mean, that's why I said what I did, where it's like, from an outside perspective and knowing what Magic is, you have one through line story with these planeswalkers and Nicole Bolas and yada, yada, yada. That's what everybody knows. Like, if you know Magic, you kind of know that. And the other sets and the other stories are there's probably way better stories in them that have high moments. It's just, I don't know it. So I approached it from as Magic the Gathering, an entity, as a product, as a brand, what is their pinnacle moment in their story? Well, it had to be Nicole Bolas and the War of the Spark. The end.
One thing I definitely like about that story is that it had an endpoint. Because, like, I imagine, there's some fan out there who really loves Karn and Karn's story over time. But so much has happened to Karn, and it's so, like, not cohesive. And they had, I can't remember how many years it was, a 3-year plan to tell and conclude the Nicol Bolas arc leading up to War of the Spark, and they executed on it. So just the vision to do that, I think, was impressive. And I also think that, without a doubt, in terms of quality, War of the Spark is the best story on the cards. Like, the story as told by the cards, I think War of the Spark nailed it and did a fantastic job. Now, big caveat here, I'm not talking about the book. I'm not talking about the 2 War of the Spark books that got wrote along with it.
Should I read those?
You do like reading bad things, or consuming bad things.
I feel like so much time has passed that plenty of people have already pointed out, but I feel like I would like to go in a very in-depth review. I'm sure it's happened already, but why not have me take a stabby stab at it?
That'd be great.
Pay me to do it.
Do that.
Go to patreon.com/geekspective and give me money, and I will do it.
We'll definitely take it. I would really enjoy being walked through. I am never going to read it.
If you support, if you like, if you enjoy, if you've laughed, if you've cried, if you farted during listening to this podcast, you owe me at least $1.
If this is your first time listener.
First time listener, have you laughed yet? Have you pooped your pants yet? If so, please give me $1.
I think, yeah, that would be interesting. But like I said, I think that War of the Spark, in the actual cards, you could just look at all the cards in War of the Spark. At least I had this experience. And I had a pretty good idea in my head just from looking at and reading the cards and the flavor text. I had a good idea of the narrative arc of the war. I had like a picture in my head of how that story went. Now, it kind of got thrown under the bus by the books, but that's a different thing.
I really want to read those books.
Maybe we'll make that happen at some point. Do you have any other magic stories that stand out to you as being high tier?
No, because like I feel bad because like there's such a huge gap of when I was involved in magic to when I was out of magic. And when I was in magic, it was Lorwyn and Morningtide, which is like an offshoot, and I don't really even remember the story. I know Planeswalkers became a thing in it, but like I don't remember the story because I played it so briefly, got really heavy into it, and then I just peaced out, and was like off doing college stuff and watching anime and getting really depressed watching Law & Order SVU, and then watching Fraggle Rock to feel good and feel alive again. I didn't have time for magic because that was what my life was, a roller coaster of Law & Order and Fraggle Rock. And
uppers and downers.
Just much like the stories in Magic the Gathering, my life too has had highs and lows in both quality
and the stakes.
And so I was at a low, high stakes point when I left Magic, and I only recently, when I have had a better quality, lower stakes life, have I been in Magic again. And yeah, I just came back to Ravnica. And so there's this huge gap between, like, obviously Morningtide and Return to Ravnica.
Return to Ravnica.
Return to Ravnica. I was like, Return to Ravnica? I've never even been in the first place. I think that was literally the first joke I made on this goddamn show. Oh,
yeah, it was.
Boy. So yeah, like for me, I don't know. I just know vignettes of people's stories. And honestly, that's kind of what I like about Magic. I would read more stories and be more invested if they were better than just meh. Or some things are pretty good, but I like vignettes better. I like character stuff and like character vignettes, and I don't really see Magic as a story so much as a bunch of people just doing things on different planes and interacting with each other. And maybe that is in part fault of Magic, the Wizards of the Coast not doing much with their storyline. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't really know. To answer your question, I can't tell you. I heard there was some dinosaurs and pirates at one point, or pirates and monkeys.
There were. A lot of people in that thread were saying Ixalan was the best, the highest point of the Magic story. And I think that has to do with quality of that particular story and all the Jace Vraska stuff that happened there. I have to confess, I don't know anything about that story except that Jace and Vraska are like making goo-goo eyes at each other the whole time.
And hey, man, that's somebody's jam, not mine.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't get invested in that one. And that was a great example. That set, Ixalan, and this is most sets, honestly, I could not get a bead on what the story was supposed to be by looking at the cards. Only thing I knew is that everybody's trying to get to the Immortal Sun. Is that what it's called? There's an artifact in the Sacred City that everybody's trying to get to. That's all I could discern. I didn't know who got there. I didn't know who won this. I didn't know why we were looking for this thing. None of that. And definitely none of the Jace Vraska intrigue made it onto the cards.
Yeah, there should have been some butt touching or snake stroking or something.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Vraska's like a Medusa. So you got opportunities for great lines like Jace is like, I want you to make me hard.
This is not the quality of writing that I want. Maybe this is your parody porn script, but I don't think this is the story that I want from Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering. Sorry.
Okay, well, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, Jace is, yep.
But you were saying earlier when you were talking about that you didn't really have access to all these stories, you're like, you know some vignettes. and that's where you want to see it kind of go to. That's a good bridge into the main topic for today. So I have an article that I want to show you and tell you about.
Okay, well, send it to me in chat. Link.
Show and tell. Okay.
What's that coming on down the bend? Looks like some magic articles and or videos. Guess it's time for another show and tell.
So this article is called 1 Year Forsaken, How to Rebuild Magic Story. This is on coolstuffinc.com. It's by Cary Thomas Beckett, and it was posted November 12th, 2020. Okay, so it opens with, I'm just going to walk us through sort of the ideas presented here and maybe read a little bit of it. It starts off with a very clear stance. It says, War the Spark Forsaken was the worst magic novel of all time. It says, it was not the worst in terms of reader reviews or even the lowest quality story necessarily, but both of those are dwarfed by the overwhelmingly negative impact it had on the story community and reputation of magic fiction. To your understanding, because you've watched and read reviews of War the Spark. So to your understanding, what's the problem with War the Spark? Or problems?
Overwhelmingly bad and inconsistent character actions, really bad dialogue, really rushed like narrative, which doesn't make sense to some things, where it just feels like, wait, what happened? Really, is this the one that had bad erasure of somebody's sexuality? So erasure of one of the planeswalkers' sexualities.
Nissa.
I think the green one.
But I think it was, if I'm remembering right, Nissa and Chandra had they seem like they have a thing going on. And then in this, in one of these novels, War the Spark novels, Chandra is like, oh, yeah, basically.
That was just a fling.
I'm into Gideon's dick.
I'm into dick, actually. Specifically, that dead dick. So that, and then just bad writing in general, like heavily exposition, weird tone stuff. Anyway, that's what I know. So if I could wrap it up again, bad characterizations of characters, inconsistent character actions, poorly. You can just cut it together. You can figure it out.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty accurate summary of the many problems, where the characters just all feel kind of bland and the same, and they speak in like almost modern lingo. They just don't feel like the characters that we've known from the story previously. Sometimes, like you say, they just do things that don't make sense for the characters either. And also, for me, one of the weird things is that the whole War of the Spark takes place over the course of like a day or two, something like that. And I had such a strong sense in looking at the cards, that this was like a real conflict. You have Nicol Bolas creating, like, statues are being erected to him, and then it culminates with them toppling the statue over. It's like, this feels like this was an occupation, you know? But anyway. Mm-hmm. So basically, this article starts out just by establishing that this book kind of tanked the story. They had all these big plans, and there was such backlash to the novels that they canceled the upcoming novel. The novel that was, because they already had Throne of Eldraine, the novel for that done, which I understand is decent. But then they canceled after that. And not only that, but then they just kind of pulled the plug on the story in general.
And what kills me the most is that there are really great writers out there who would love to work on Magic the Story. Like,
yeah, totally.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Both of us have dabbled in writing Magic stuff. You more so in a serious vein, and me in a more of a sarcastic satire vein. God, I would love to write
funny
satire
Magic stories.
Oh yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be fun to have like a goblin story come out every month?
Like with Commander Legends comes out and you write a story about Krark the Thumbless.
And it's literally just a vignette. Like, I live for vignettes. God, I love I just like nice little concise morsels that really give you like an insight into a character and their motivation and what they're like. I really like those, writing that kind of stuff. But yeah, people exist. And like also the like vetting process where it's like, going back specifically because I'm kind of eyeballing this article where it was basically erasing Chandra and Nissa's relationship, basically doing bi erasure, right? Like, bisexuality is a thing that exists. People are bisexual. Just say that her relationship with Nissa was a passing thing, and actually, no, I'm into to just a dude, a dead dude, lamenting his dead dick. It's like, come on, no,
he was alive
you
at the
just
time,
are. You're whatever. Contributing to this like panic that bi people are always just closeted, or just going to change, one way or the other. And it's like, no, don't do that. You're promoting a bad train of thought and not a good way. I mean, they could have went deeper with it, but no, it's just a passing thing, and that's what hurts. It's quote unquote queer baiting. Yeah, oh yeah, Nissa and Chandra are together. Oh, JK, right. She loves Gideon.
We don't want to offend our audience who don't want to see that. Pull back, get rid of it.
Well, yeah, it's terrible, and I can go on and on about representation in media and why it's so important. And I will give one vignette here, one little story about my father, who used to be a very homophobic, very like not accepting of people person, and but he loves sci-fi. He watches all sorts of sci-fi stuff. And the show that like finally got him to like ease up was Torchwood, which has a canonically pansexual main character who is like DTF anything. And they portray his relationships through the series. And my dad at first wrinkled his nose, but then over time he's just like, whatever. And then has not said and been like homophobic since, at least not to my face. So I'm just saying, media representation is important. Matter. And I'm off of my soapbox.
Keep it nearby just in case.
Okay. It's always
within reach.
It's always within reach.
Reading a little bit further on, Beckett writes, the icing on this whole approach, which was how they used to do the story, was the contagious passion and shared audience. It fostered an environment where content creation focused on the more creative elements of magic could flourish like never before. Plentiful weekly story articles meant that the audience continued to read, listen, or watch along with you. When the story thrived, we reached a point where even non-story creators were highlighting their favorite episodes as they were released. And so this is what this article is about, is how do we get back to where the magic story was thriving?
This is what I would do. I would do a thing where you start hooking people with vignettes. Maybe you unlock stuff in Arena, and when you do, little like animatics come up that show like tension or story out through what's going on in your packs. That would be super cool. I know that would cost money to do animatics and story, but you're not spending a lot of money on books yet. But I would do that first to like build that back up. It's like first you do these like little vignettes things in either Arena or, League of Legends sucks me in with videos all the time, even though I don't play the game. I'm like, damn, I'm in it. Like, I would watch a League of Legends anime now because exactly. And that's how I think they should, like, what's a huge thing that they do, what's a big part of Magic the Gathering is art. Why aren't they making comics? Why aren't they making little videos? Why aren't they doing longer format story in videos? I mean, we kind of get them in the like the releases, of like War of the Spark and Eldraine. We got those pack that set announcements. Those are fun. Those are great. They're immersive. They get people excited. They get people hyped up. And then over time, you have all this. You should be writing, getting your stories going to actually make novels and longer format written things. Because I can tell you, I am a kind of person that if I'm into a comic and I know that there's a source material, I tend to go read it. Like, for instance, Howl's Moving Castle, the whole anime movie I watched. There's a book by Diana Wynne Jones that I found out was by. I bought that novel and I read that novel.
Case closed. I'm glad you brought up League, because I wanted to talk about League as well and the vignettes, because I think you're right. They do it very, very smartly. Listeners, if you are unfamiliar with League entirely, I would recommend just go. It's like a 3-minute watch. Go watch. It's a music video. It's called As We Fall. And it's basically telling the origin story of one of the champions in League. And it's visually done. It has a song that goes along with it. It's really cool, and it gets you interested in this character, and it gets you wanting to learn more. They also tied that in with a comic series that went along with it. It's like you're saying, like drawing you in to consume more of this story. So I think like when War of the Spark came and they had that trailer with the Linkin Park song in the background, I was so hyped up for that. Not the Linkin Park song necessarily, but the video itself, where it's like it shows Liliana and her struggle and the story moment of her deciding, fuck it, I'm going to turn on Nicol Bolas. Kill me if you want to. I'm actually going to stand up and do the right thing. And it was like, yes. Like, why can't we get more of that? Like, don't get me wrong. I liked the Eldraine, the gingerbread people. That was cute. Like the Ikoria, where it was, what's her name? The green planeswalker. Oh my god, words. No.
Nissa?
Arkbow. Vivian. Where she's like just fighting monsters. Like, I get nothing. Well, not nothing out of that. But pull me in, you know? Tell me a little bit of story here. Why can't we recapture that glory of a hyped up video that's actually telling me something about the story? It's such a good opportunity that kind of gets wasted, I feel.
Yeah. League of Legends is doing it right. If me, it's a MOBA, right? Is that what League is? A non-MOBA person is like, damn.
Yeah. I've seen so many people react to these videos and get hyped about it and be like, I need to look into this game. And I want to tell them, you poor child.
Don't play it. I will never play League of Legends. I'll say that right now. But I would watch a League of Legends anime, and I would read a League of Legends comic, and I would probably, if they had like a game that was like
so funnily enough, MOBA. Some of that is coming out, but that's a separate topic. I was going to connect something you said earlier, having in-game things that are kind of lore or story related. Also going to connect this to League. League has only done this a couple times, but it's kind of cool, where there are certain characters in the game, of course, that are connected by lore. So, for example, there's this region in League called the Freljord, which is like an icy tundra. There's tribes vying for control. They're like evil. There's an evil witch who died a long time ago. There are these 3 legendary sisters who are being reincarnated. And 2 of these characters is the ice witch, Lysandra, and the frost elf-ish ranger, Ash. And they are both vying for control of this area. If they're in the game on opposite teams, at one point in the game, a little quest will pop up, and they're like vying for control of the Freljord. And if you successfully kill the other one, then you get some bonuses. It would be really cool in Magic Arena if you had characters or cards that are connected by lore, if a little quest would pop up, and it would give you packs if you succeed at the quest, or it would unlock a little like video or something that told you more about the lore. Like, there's so many cool opportunities, and that you wouldn't have to have an animatic for that. Like,
I feel so sad for Wizards at some time. Not really, but like it's like, you guys are, what are you doing? Like it's not, I mean, it's a science, but it's not rocket science. It's behavioral science, and there's so many models that have worked that exist already that you could just like go, hey, dang, that's a cool idea. That intellectual property is having some smart ideas. Couldn't we implement it something the same way? I mean, this kind of goes back to all the conversations we've been having about magic in general. Like one of the episodes we released recently, in the last, whatever this comes out, I don't know, 3-4 episodes ago, what will kill magic? And it's like, how much time, energy, money, effort needs to, like, what is going on? I have to say, that's like, why aren't we planning our roadmap, or what does their roadmap look like outside of just R&D for actual Magic the Gathering? Are they thinking of things like this? Are they thinking of ways to keep their community like engaged and excited and hyped in a way that isn't just the play sets, you know? And it makes me sad because, damn, I would love to see like a Hades style ass animatics of the planeswalkers talking with each other and like in game, and like cooler things that you could do outside of, because like, they have rich story and rich lore, and it's just sitting there, and like people are writing articles about how sad it is.
Yeah,
that it's being
I wanted
wasted.
to seg from the point you just brought up about what is the roadmap. The last section in this talks about communication. And it says, accountability aside, there are countless questions that remain unanswered about the future of Magic Story past Zendikar Rising. Web fiction may be the plan for now, but ebooks were the plan as of this time last year. What direction is Magic Story heading in, and what types of products can fans expect stories for? Can we expect any other expressions like comics, novels, or even Arena to be attempted again? And what is being done differently the next time? And it feels like I got such Star Wars vibes, like new Star Wars vibes reading this when I think about Magic and the story, where it feels like just scrambling and we're only thinking a few feet in front of us at a time and not thinking long term, which is so weird because War of the Spark, which was such a huge success story-wise and set-wise, I think, they planned that years in advance and had everything building up to this moment. And now it's just like, where did that go?
They didn't plan for after. That's why I keep going back to my speculation, other things like what happened to the leadership, what changed, because to me that's indicative of that. And I know the world events too, you know, this year has been insane, but that shouldn't have affected.
They planned so far in advance as well.
War of the Spark. Yeah, so to me it's like,
maybe they were hedging their bets.
What?
Maybe they were like, we have this 3-year plan. We don't know how it's going to go. So afterwards, let's do a bunch of like kind of one-shot quick things.
I mean, that's like GM planning, right? Like I feel like I do that when I the other hobby I do, Kenny and I both do, running TTRPGs. When I GM, it's like I have an arc in mind, but I always plan for, after that arc is done, maybe 3 little, like, I let the characters kind of do fun character stuff that they want to do while I set up and prepare for the next arc of something, or at least, like, you know, scaffold it. So what I'm hearing from myself is that as a GM, I could plan out a product. GMing skills now equated to making product skills and planning for product or planning for a portfolio. Golly.
We've said this a few times, what I want in Magic Story, I like the vignettes you were talking about. I wrote one. It was just a little like fanfic of Elspeth and her story of how she got out of the underworld, and it focused on the character and what makes Elspeth Elspeth. That's what I want. I didn't want to skip over this. There's another section that I want to touch on before we wrap up here called accountability. This section says, Wizards put out a call for BIPOC authors to apply. However, these commitments have remained exclusively freelance. While not one-to-one, the work treads woefully close to the contractorship impasse highlighted in Zane Begg's account from June, the same one which originally prompted this call. Let's be clear. Magic has had full-time employees as in-house authors for the final published Magic fiction before, though rarely, if ever, in wholly dedicated author positions. That said, the decision is not simply whether to start hiring full-time authors or offer a greater number of BIPOC authors the opportunity to write freelance Magic fiction. When there are 20-odd years of lost opportunities to make up for and more than enough space for additional Magic stories to be published, it should be both. And then I'll just go ahead and read the rest of this section as well.
I mean, you don't have to.
I do kind of want to get to this next part because I think it's interesting as well. On a different troubling axis, we have the entirely unspecified new vetting process promised by Jeremy Jarvis in the wake of the representational failures of Forsaken. And this is about this Chandra thing. The blowback from Forsaken illuminated that we needed a better validation strategy, not only for issues of representation, but for narrative content in general. So, we made the hard call to delay Theros Beyond Death fiction until we could create a new vetting process. That unfortunately meant that we would miss our intended release window.
What fucking kills me is that there are so many sensitivity readers out there and so many BIPOC people and BIPOC people that could do this. It's just like, I can't believe it doesn't take that long to set up a system. It might add a couple weeks, or maybe depending on how much work you have to redo, a month. But we haven't seen anything about Theros Beyond Death and how long has it been out. I think they're not going to
do anything with it. I think they just trashed that project.
That's unfortunate. Why would you do that?
I think this is what's indicative of why they would do that. The next bit here. This is the most interesting part to me. So this is, again, the author of the article. With absolutely zero details of the process itself or further updates on it in the almost year since, at best, Jarvis' statement weakly replaces the previously unspoken understanding that they would try to write decent Magic stories. At worst, the vetting process inherits the same reluctant and dismissive attitude, which caused him to label justified criticism of Forsaken's biphobia as a mere blowback. And I think that word is that's like the tell. It's like, why did they trash that project? Because they got blowback from the previous one. And they're like, somebody, people in upper management, whatever, were like, pull the plug. This is not worth the negative press that we're getting.
It just makes you look fucking worse. That's what kills me the most. It's like, oh, we don't want the negative stuff. Well, people would be, I wouldn't say okay. There's obviously a problem, but they would be more accepting and responsive if companies would just own up and say, we made a mistake and legitimately here is the plan, and within the next month had a legit plan that they vetted with people who are sensitivity readers or sensitive consultants, cultural consultants, and come back and say, and what's awful is, like I told you earlier, my soapbox that I am now dragging out and I'm obviously standing on again, is that it's better to keep trying and having consultants than it is to be like, oh, it's too scary. It's too scary to have this negative impact. If we put something out there that could be bad for any side of the community, one being the people who are probably more conservative and unwilling and are actually homophobic and all the phobics that exist, versus, and then also scared that the other side of it is going to be critical of you. It's like, I would rather take the criticism and then keep getting better at it, because at least then people go, oh, you are doing your due diligence as a company and as being responsible content creators. Like, hey, representation matters. Like I told you about freaking Torchwood with my dad, where it's like, it needs to be shown. That's how we're only ever going to get better as a society, is if we understand things better and have good representation of things. I am so pissed off at this right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell. God,
You're looking at the
a year and nothing has happened.
I think a good place to wrap up here. We've talked a lot about the potential that is there for the Magic story. There are a lot of talented people out there on the internet. There are a lot of talented people who love magic, and there are a lot of talented writers who love magic, who would love the opportunity to tell some awesome kick-ass stories in the magic setting. And it just feels like my feeling is that it should not be this hard to let people do that and enable the people who would be great at it to do it.
Unless, sorry, Wizards, and maybe Kenny, you can cut this out. Literally, management CEOs are fucking horribly racist, transphobic, homophobic, or just don't give a fuck, or don't understand. You can cut that all out. Okay. But that's what I'm thinking. I can cut that out. Speculation's not great, but anyway, I'm putting my soapbox away again.
That's a good soapbox. A double soapbox episode.
God, I needed it. Just unfortunate. Yep. It makes me just so sad.
I agree. The potential is there. I think the magic story has been good. It can get good again. That is not an impossible thing. Keep applying that pressure. Keep being pissed off at the magic story.
Keep writing articles. I should be more vitriolic on internet, but I kind of try to keep myself from adding.
Well, you started this when I brought up this article. You're like, all these articles. But we need this. We need people to be pounding the table.
And not just
about the magic story.
Like, writing or putting a podcast out and being critical. It's like everybody should be. And also, as I talked before, dollars is dollars.
Let them know.
Dollars is how you hurt the big guys.
Yep.
I'm not saying boycott, but
I think that
boycott. It does.
I think this is a good place to
the drool is
wrap up. Then
still flowing from my mouth, and I need to clean up. So yes, we should end.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. This was a very interesting conversation. I knew I could rope Amber in and get her heated up about this.
Dear,
I also am heated up about it.
Dear new listener, this is just for you. I hope you come back. The next episode won't be 35 hours. It'll probably be only 45 minutes.
That was beautiful.
Thank
well
you.
said. We're Red Mage Blue Mage. We're on Twitter at RedBlueMTG. I'm on Twitter at Wolfmere.
I'm on Twitter at Rocket Orca.
All kinds of amazing shows are on Geekspective.com, which is where we are hosted.
Check it out.
Go check it out. Until next time, though, I'll be representing Counterspell.
And I'm going to whack wizards upside the head with my soapbox.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.